Good morning, it's Todd here with Project Wyvern. It's my first YouTube video, so bear with me a little bit. Today I just wanted to kind of show everybody a little bit of my process. Almost done forming the nose ribs on the Barrows Bearhawk 4-place. So kind of just wanted to give everybody a quick rundown of the process that I've used, and I know that these types of videos helped inspire me and get me to make the choice to actually start scratch building. So hopefully somebody else will find something useful in them, and so let's get started. So the Bearhawk nose ribs start out as 2024 T3 aluminum, 25 thousandths thickness, and I buy my sheet metal from Aircraft Spruce. You can check local suppliers and see they happen to be the best. I made up a spreadsheet to see what the best cost was per square foot, and without buying large sheets, I found that the 2x2 was actually the most cost-effective method when you factor in shipping. And so wanted to start out small. Started with those. You can see I got 4 ribs here. You can see the outlines there, and 2 aileron nose ribs per 2x2 sheet. So that's not too bad. You can see there's still a film on them. It's a plastic film just for protection. I leave that on there throughout the process until I'm ready to start putting a layer of primer on there. I'm going to try and leave that on just to prevent any scratches or anything from affecting the metal. So having the outline, each outline on there, which I got using that jig there for the nose ribs and a separate one for the aileron nose ribs here. Laid everything out on there, and next step we're going to take some aviation shears and go around it. We won't cut to the line here. We're actually going to cut outside of it, try and keep at least 1/8 or a little bit more away from that line. Okay, we got our ribs rough cut out now with the aviation snips. So you can see on some of these, the reason that we like to leave a little bit of a space between the line and the where we're actually cutting, other than the fact that this isn't terribly precise, the way we just trace that on there, is that you can see on the edge there it kind of ripples where you cut. So far from a perfect cut. This is just to make them more manageable to work with. See, we got 4 of them there. So the next step is that we'll drill the jig holes, which are going to be used, one here and one up here. Going to be used to make sure that everything remains straight when we start building the wing, and it's going to help keep everything uniform throughout the forming process as well. Alright, you can see we got our holes drilled now. Those 2 there, and same in each rib. Now to do that, we use this jig here. We have it's 3/8 hole with a steel spacer, so it's actually 1/4 inch inside diameter on those. And I drill each one separately, but they all use this block, and so that ensures that the hole spacing and positioning is 100% identical on each nose rib. And later on, that's going to allow us to make sure that they come out off the router, all looking exactly the same. So the next step is going to be putting them on the router, and we're actually going to cut this down to the line. Alright, we now have us a rib sandwich. What I've done here is I've put one of the rough cut ribs in between 2 MDF blocks here. We'll put it on the router with a flush trim bit that has a bearing. It's going to ride along the top of here, and then it'll shave everything down along the edges, and so what we'll be left with is a final product that matches the exact size and shape of this top block here. Now on the back, on this jig, we actually have countersunk holes so that it can still ride flush on the table, on the router table. And it's been cut a 1/4 inch off of the entire edge of this, so there's no worry about the router bit finding interference or anything like that. So we'll throw it on the router and should come out with, we'll also drill these out to run around there, and should have a rib that looks more like a rib. Alright, so after routing these ribs, they now look much more like aircraft ribs. Now what I've done after routing these, I wanted to kind of show the difference if you can see it on the camera, which I'm not sure we're going to be able to. Let's see. So I've actually gone ahead and deburred these edges. Now the router leaves, look at this other one here. You can see these little ridges, not the plastic there, but the actual ridges in the metal that the router leaves behind. Now, once this gets bent up and riveted to the aircraft, or what will eventually be the aircraft, stress can actually build up in those spaces, and it's especially bad in the corners where the flanges bend. But so I've just gone over with a Dremel with a flap wheel and taking that down to, I don't know if you'd call that a satin finish or what, but basically make sure the ridges are gone, just there's no sharp edges, and also the holes have to be deburred as well. Have a deburring tool around here somewhere for that. So basically we just want to make sure that there's no places on these ribs that the stress can build up when the vibrations start and cracks form, and structural failure in the wings apparently is a bad thing. So next step is to actually start forming the flanges on the lightning holes here and then along the edges. So we will get to that. Alright, this is the nose rib off of the press where we formed the flanges on the lightning holes there. We used the cow mat method, which is took a couple pieces of this cow mat that you can buy at your tack and feed store, Tractor Supply, wherever, and it's actually a dense rubber, and push that down over a form that has a 45-degree chamfer on it. And let's see if I can pull that one over for you. Like this. So I actually did that on the router table with a 45-degree bit, and with the spring back on the aluminum, it works out right around 30 degrees, which is what we're looking for. Measured that to be sure because I didn't know if it was going to spring back that much, but it seems to have worked alright. So we've gone ahead and flanged the edges on the form block, marked where all the rivets are, and you can see it's still, right now, it's pretty much a potato chip. It's very curved. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a flute, which is basically just a dimple in the metal, in between each of these places where the rivet's going to go. That's going to use up some of the extra metal that's causing that to bow, and that'll flatten that out. And it's still going to have a little bit of the curve here. And with that we will just manipulate the lightning holes here a little bit. And when we're done, we should have what turns out to be a fairly flat piece of metal. Alright, we now have a finished, nearly finished nose rib. See, it's now sits flat. It used to bow up here. There's no bow. We have our flutes in between where the rivets should go. And about all that's left to do on this, we'll want to take the plastic off at some point and prime it, as well as put a rib stiffener here. Each of the nose ribs gets a rib stiffener. It basically just gives it a little extra support, more so than just these flanges will. And that's what we got. So, appreciate you watching, and if you have any feedback for me, be sure to let me know, and I will see you next time.